Okay, I want you to picture the scene. It's New Year's Day 2024. You're in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The air is thick, it's humid. That, classic South Florida blanket of heat. You're probably nursing a bit of a hangover.
Probably.
Maybe grabbing a coffee, or you're a tourist at Bayside Marketplace. You're expecting a relaxed evening. What you are not expecting is for the world to just dissolve into chaos.
And when we say chaos, we're not talking about like a small scuffle. We are talking about a police response so massive, it basically shut down the entire downtown grid.
Right. It was just blue lights as far as the eye could see,
Right.
a fleet of police cruisers swarming the center. But here's the thing that makes this such a perfect topic for a deep dive.
Go on.
If you were physically on the ground that night, your brain probably went to riot or maybe shooter.
Yeah.
But if you were online, scrolling through X or TikTok, the story was completely different.
Completely.
The internet was not talking about crime. They were talking about an invasion, specifically 10-foot-tall shadow aliens.
It's one of the most bizarre disconnects in recent memory, isn't it? You have this very tangible physical event sirens, people running, and then this completely fantastical narrative just exploding in the cloud.
Exactly.
And today, we're not just here to debunk a UFO story. I mean, that's almost too easy. We're looking at this as a case study in the birth of modern urban folklore.
Yes, yeah. How do we get from point A, police siren, to point B, interdimensional beings? We've got a really interesting stack of sources to figure this out. We're pulling timelines from the Cryptid Wiki, which, yes, treats this with deadly seriousness.
Of course it does.
We've got the architectural history of the mall itself from Wikipedia, which it turns out to be way more important than I thought. And then a very surprising perspective from the Elser Hotel's own corporate blog.
That Elser Hotel source is going to flip the script later on. But the core mission here is to understand how an information void gets filled. When the official story is slow and the footage is blurry, our brains and our algorithms, they start building monsters.
So let's reconstruct the night, January 4th, 2024, Bayside Marketplace. What is the baseline reality before, the aliens show up? What actually happened?
The baseline is chaos, but it is terrestrial chaos. According to the official police reports, this all started with teenagers, a lot of them. We're talking about a group of maybe 50 to 100 kids.
Which is just a nightmare scenario for mall security on a holiday.
Exactly. Tensions flare, groups collide, and a brawl breaks out. But here's the catalyst that changes everything. Fireworks.
Oh.
Someone in that crowd started setting off pyrotechnics. Now, you have to put yourself in that environment. Bayside is open air, lots of concrete, glass, water. The acoustics are tricky.
And in America, in 2024, if you're in a crowded public space and you hear a loud bang,
You don't think fireworks, you don't think car backfiring, you think gunshots.
active shooter, instantly.
That is the psychological primer we're all walking around with. So police get calls about shots fired. That triggers what's called a citywide 3 signal. That means every available unit drops what they're doing and converges on that location.
Okay, that explains the visuals.
Yeah.
Because that was the first thing the internet latched onto. The sheer scale of the police response. I remember seeing the aerial footage. It looked like a scene from a disaster movie. Dozens of cruisers, lights flashing, completely blocking Biscayne Boulevard.
And that visual is what created the credibility gap. To the online observer, the official story, which came out later as teens fighting, it just didn't match the visual data.
Right. It felt disproportionate.
Exactly. You look at 60 police cars and you think, you don't need an army for a fistfight.
And we hate that. We have this deep-seated need for the cause to match the effect. Big response must equal a big threat. A fistfight isn't a big enough threat, so our brains go hunting for something bigger.
Precisely. It's a cognitive bias. We look for a cause that justifies the scale of the reaction. And into that gap, that need for a bigger explanation, steps the rumor mill. The hashtag Miami Malian starts trending. And the claim becomes very specific.
They're not there for kids.
No, they're there to contain entities.
Entities. I want to drill down on the descriptions from the Cryptid Wiki here, because they didn't just say aliens. They were weirdly consistent with the details.
They were, which is what makes folklore sticky. The primary description was of shadow beings, unusually tall. That 8 to 10 foot range is mentioned constantly.
Constantly. And thin, with elongated limbs. One account on the wiki described them as having unnatural proportions and said they were seen, and this is my favorite part, exiting a clothing store.
Which is, if we just pause for a second, completely hilarious.
It's absurd. I come in peace, take me to your Gap. Or maybe they were looking for a sale.
But that mundane detail, that actually helps the folklore stick. If the story was a spaceship landed on the roof, It's too Hollywood.
Right, it feels like a movie.
But strange, tall figure walking out of a shop that feels grounded in the setting. It hits that uncanny valley button. It's almost normal, but not quite. It anchors the impossible in the possible.
The wiki also mentions shifting silhouettes. Witnesses claim these things didn't move like people. They glided or phased in and out of focus. Some even mentioned reflective surfaces on their skin.
That shifting detail is the key, I think, to unlocking what actually happened. To understand why people saw shifting shadows, we have to stop looking at the aliens and start looking at the stage design. We need to talk about Benjamin Thompson.
The architect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading the Wikipedia background on Bayside. It opened in 1987. It's described as a festival marketplace.
Right. And Benjamin Thompson was famous for this Style Think Faneuil Hall in Boston. The whole philosophy is about breaking down the walls between the city and the commerce. It's open air, it's permeable.
So unlike a traditional mall, which is a closed box with controlled fluorescent lighting, Bayside is it's exposed.
Completely. You're right on Biscayne Bay. You've got wind, humidity, moonlight. But then, fast forward to the 2016 renovation, the owners spent $27 million upgrading the place. A big part of that was installing new high-intensity LED lighting systems.
Okay, so you have bright directional LEDs, you have smoke from the fireworks.
And you have panic. This is where the physics meets the psychology. If you have a powerful LED source behind a person, say a police officer in full gear, and there's smoke in the air, that shadow isn't going to look normal.
It's going to project onto the smoke.
And onto the concrete walls at extreme angles. It's the Brock Inspector effect, right? Like when hikers see a giant shadow of themselves in the mist.
Oh, exactly that. So a 6-foot cop becomes a 12-foot shadow looming over the crowd.
And because the smoke is swirling and the police lights are flashing blue and red, that shadow appears to shift or phase. It looks like it's solidifying and dissolving.
So the aliens were literally the police, just projected and distorted by the environment.
That's the most plausible technical explanation. It accounts for the height, the shifting movement, but we can't just blame the lights. We have to look at the software running in the observers' heads. This ties into mass social contagion.
We hear that term a lot, but what's actually happening in the brain? Is it just hallucination? Because mass hallucination sounds like something from a sci-fi movie, too.
It's not a hallucination in the sense of seeing something that isn't there. It's more of an error in processing. In high-stress states, your brain switches from analysis mode to survival mode. It prioritizes speed over accuracy.
So if someone next to you screams, "Look at that giant thing," your brain is already primed to find a giant thing.
Yes, it's called perceptual set. You are prepared to perceive a specific stimulus. If you're expecting a monster, a shadow looks like a monster. And in a crowd, this becomes contagious. Fear is a social signal.
It's a feedback loop.
A total feedback loop. The crowd creates the monster it fears, and the architecture, this labyrinth of walkways and balconies, it actually traps that fear. You can't see the whole picture, only fragments.
But there's another layer here. The Cryptid Wiki mentions the hologram theory. This idea that it wasn't aliens, but a projection, like Project Bluebeam stuff.
That's a fascinating pivot because it shows how these theories evolve. For some people, aliens is just too unbelievable, so they invent a human conspiracy that is equally complex. They claimed a projector was set up.
It's almost more comforting, right? It implies someone's in control. Even if it's a government psyop, at least there's a plan.
Exactly. But this brings us to the biggest paradox of the night, the evidence paradox. Bayside Marketplace was packed. Everyone has a smartphone with a 4K camera.
So where is the footage? That's the million-dollar question.
We have hours of footage of police cars, hours of footage of kids running, but we have zero clear frames of a 10-foot entity, not one.
In the 90s, you could say I didn't have my camcorder. Today, that excuse is dead.
The absence of evidence in the age of ubiquitous surveillance is a massive hurdle for cryptozoology. If a 10-foot being walked through a mall in Miami, we would have 300 videos from different angles. Reddit would have a 3D model of the thing by the next morning.
So how do the believers rationalize that? What's the explanation for the lack of TikToks?
They pivot to tech suppression. You see this all over the forums. The aliens jammed the phones, or the government scrubbed the internet. Or, and this is my favorite from the wiki, the entities exist in a spectrum of light that cameras can't capture.
Which is convenient.
Extremely convenient. It makes the theory unfalsifiable. The lack of evidence becomes evidence of a cover-up. If you can't see it, that just proves how advanced they are.
And the Miami Police Department, They didn't really help matters. They issued that statement, no aliens, UFOs, or ETs.
Which is exactly what the Men in Black would say.
Right. If you deny it too specifically, it sounds suspicious. We definitely do not have 10-foot shadow monsters. Okay. Why did you feel the need to specify the height?
It's the Streisand effect. By engaging with the rumor to debunk it, they just gave it oxygen. If they had just said it was a disturbance involving juveniles, it might have faded, but by saying no aliens, they put aliens in the headline.
So the aliens, whether they were shadows or just teenagers, eventually left. The police cleared out. But the story didn't die. And this is where that Elser Hotel source blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Usually when a riot happens near your hotel, you downplay. You say, it was isolated, everything is safe.
Standard crisis PR.
Yeah.
You distance yourself from the danger.
But the Elser Hotel did the exact opposite. They leaned in.
They absolutely did. They saw that Miami Aliens was trending globally, and they realized we are right next door to Ground Zero. So they started publishing blog content with titles like, Will the Aliens Return?
That is bold.
It's brilliant and cynical and fascinating. They identified that Miami has a specific brand. It's not just beaches and clubs. The Elser blog talks about the cultural fascination with the unexplained in Miami.
They mention its proximity to the Bermuda Triangle, right? And all those mystery drone sightings.
Yes. They frame Miami as this liminal space, a place where weird things happen. And by doing that, they turned a negative event, a riot, into a unique selling proposition. Come stay with us, you might see an alien.
It's dark tourism for internet memes. They commodified the conspiracy theory.
And it worked. Bayside Marketplace, its entire public perception shifted. It went from that tourist trap to the place where the portal opened.
It reminds me of Roswell. Or Point Pleasant with the Mothman. The monster becomes the mascot.
But the speed of it, that's the real insight here. Roswell took decades to become a tourist industry. Point Pleasant took years. Bayside Marketplace made that transition in about 72 hours.
Because of the internet.
Because folklore is now algorithmic. It doesn't spread by word of mouth around a campfire. It spreads by retweet. The Bayside alien was entered into the cryptid wiki almost immediately. It was categorized, described, and codified. It is now part of the canon of monsters alongside Bigfoot.
That is wild to think about. A misunderstanding of shadows on a Monday night became a permanent entry in the Encyclopedia of Monsters by Tuesday morning.
It shows that we still have this deep need for mythology. We think we're so rational, so modern. But give us a blurry video and a dark night, and we are right back to being peasants scared of the dragon in the woods.
We want the world to be magical, even if that magic is scary.
Especially if it's scary. Teens fighting with fireworks is a boring, depressing headline. It's just noise. But interdimensional shadow beings. That means the universe is vast and mysterious. That means anything is possible.
So we prefer the interesting lie to the boring truth.
Every single time. And the fog of war creates the canvas for that lie. We talked about the information void. In the old days, that was literal smoke on a battlefield. Today, it's digital noise. There is too much information coming out of Miami, too many tweets, too many blurry clips, and yet not enough actual information.
It's like we were drowning in data but starving for truth.
That's the condition of the digital age. We assume connectivity equals clarity. But in a crisis, connectivity just accelerates the confusion. It allows the rumor to travel halfway around the world before the truth has even put its shoes on.
I want to circle back to the architecture one last time. Because if Bayside had been a normal, enclosed, mall beige box with a food court, do you think this would have happened?
I really don't think so. That festival marketplace design is crucial. The open sightlines to the sky, the water, the shadows. It created a theatrical stage. If this happens inside a Target, it's just a panic. You see the ceiling tiles, you know where you are. Because it happened at Bayside, it became a sci-fi movie.
Context is everything.
Context is the difference between a riot and an invasion.
So for the listener who finds themselves in a crowd when the blue lights start flashing, what's the takeaway? Besides running away, obviously.
Check your sources. And check your own eyes.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, am I seeing a monster or am I just seeing a shadow and feeling fear? Our brains are storytelling machines, and sometimes they tell us ghost stories when we just need the news.
And maybe put the phone down?
Well, unless you actually see the alien, then for the love of God, hold the camera steady.
Please, we need the 4K footage. No more blurry flip phone quality.
We really do. We owe it to science.
Here's the final thought I want you to mull over today. We've talked about how the lack of evidence fueled the fire. But consider this. Is it possible that the mystery is actually the product? We consume these stories like entertainment. We watched the Miami alien saga unfold like a Netflix series in real time. So, does the truth even matter anymore? Or are we just looking for the next good story to distract us from the fact that it's January and we have to go back to work?
The mystery is always more profitable than the solution, and it's definitely more fun.
That's a wrap on the Miami Mall incident. Keep watching the shadows, but maybe don't believe everything you see online.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening.